In video 4 of this unit is about solving some stoichiometry problems, in particular ones that go from what's called mole A to mole B. Now what I mean by that A and B is that we're just switching chemicals. So we might be talking about nitrogen, that would be our A, and then NH3 would be our B, or maybe it's hydrogen, but it's just comparing two things in a chemical reaction. So the first thing you're going to have to do when you're given a problem is to determine what you have and what you're looking for. This is the same equation that I did in a previous video, and we came up with all 6 of the ratios that are present. In this problem, we have to figure out which 2 we care about, which 2 substances. So if you're given 2.5 moles of nitrogen, that's that one, how many moles of NH3 can be formed? That's this one. If I have excess H2. Now it referenced all 3 chemicals. So you're going to have to pick out the information that tells you what you're really concerned about. For this particular one, if I have excess H2, then I'm not really worried about it. I have as much as I could possibly need. It's like if I was making cookies and I had 2 cups of sugar, 1 cup of milk, and 5 pounds of chocolate. Obviously, I have enough chocolate, so I don't need to worry about that one. Okay, so in this problem, how you're going to set this up is you're going to determine your ratio that is needed. Once you determine the 2 that you're using, you're going to come up with your ratio. Like this. For every 1 mole of N2, you get 2 moles of NH3. That's just the ratio. That's the relationship, okay? So your first step is to determine your ratio. Now with this ratio, remember that you can flip it depending on what you need. So I'm going to show you what that looks like right now, but I'm going to stick with it this way first. It says, given 2.5 moles, that's my given. Okay, so I'm just going to write down given 2.5 moles of N2. This is very important that you include your chemical now. What I'm looking for is my unknown, and I'm looking for moles of NH3. Also important to include the unit and the chemical. There's my given, my unknown, and there's my ratio. So now we're going to start. Stoichiometry is all about this tool that we learned a while ago. We're bringing it back. So remember that your given always goes here. If you're showing your work and listing out your given and your unknown and your ratio, using this becomes really easy. But if you're trying to skip all of these steps right here, this becomes very difficult. So you're going to take your given and you're going to plug that in. Still nothing goes here. And as we talked about, it has to match diagonally. Okay, so this is the important part and where our ratio comes into play. So we're going to stick our ratio here. This is the same line as this one right here. We just kind of stick it there wherever we need it. Now, if I have nitrogen here, nitrogen has to go on bottom. The purpose of that is to cancel it out, because when we end up dividing, that goes away. If I plug the ratio in as it is, then nitrogen is not on bottom. So that's not the way I need to plug it in. I need to flip that ratio, and I need to put the nitrogen on bottom. So I'm going to write that in. The way to check your work as you go is you cancel those units. If it's diagonal, it cancels. And right here should be our unknown. It should match. And it does. So we know that we're done. And then we pick up a calculator. And we take the top numbers. Ignore the units, ignore the chemicals. When you're picking up your calculator, all we're concerned about with is the numbers out in front. That 2.5. Remember, we multiply the things that are on top times 2. 2.5 times 2 is 5. We're going to multiply the things on bottom. There's just a 1, so I'm just going to put a 1 on bottom. So 5 divided by 1 is 5. Whatever unit is the last thing you wrote down here, that's the unit that you copy over here. And then that's your final answer. Now I'm going to have another video that walks through another problem, but if you think you understand, then you can move on to the practice worksheet. If you're still a little confused, watch the next video.